And thank you so much, Pat, for all you do. I'm just in awe, of everything that you do for this ministry. And I'm very humbled to speak today. I think I'll start a little bit with my history. I was a very, how shall I say this, maladjusted child. What can I tell you? I had a victim mentality. I was very negative, angry, fearful. I just isolated myself. I did not participate in school. I was that child that always made problems. I was very disruptive. I was always plagued with fear. And, when I speak to others that are compulsive overeaters or have been compulsive overeaters in the past, many will talk about, someone having a normal childhood. I really didn't. I had all the opportunities to have such. My family materially didn't want for anything, but I was simply an emotionally kind of really unstable child, to the point that I think I was sent by schools to a psychiatrist when I was in like sixth grade, and I probably actually should have gone even earlier. So that's where I was, and I didn't even want to go to school. Finally, my mother said to me once, I think I was approaching high school, and my mother said to me, Lynn, we're not going to support you financially for all of your life. And I was very materialistic. I always wanted the best of everything. And she knew that apparently, and she said, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to make a living for yourself, how you aren't, but we're not going to be here to do that, to support you through necessarily financially. And so I knew that she was pretty serious about that, and I thought, oh my God, I've got to make money. So I wasn't able to function at home. I was sent away to boarding school, and I started to take studies more seriously, and I was just focused on school, and I wanted to be the best, always the best, and I was still pretty much a loner. So anyways, that gives you an idea of my background. So I did come out of college, and I did, I did well in school, and I did get some, good job offers and whatnot. But through all of this, my eating disorder probably started at a very young age, maybe 2 or 3. My compulsive overeating was intertwined with my emotional issues. I'm an emotional eater too, and I think it was my way of coping with things also, the emotional eating. However, I must say that addictive behaviors were very prevalent in my family. My father was a compulsive overeater, an alcoholic, a rager, lots of things. My mother had her compulsions. So it's not like this addictive in a vacuum. My father was, he was institutionalized when I was, I think, about maybe six years old, I believe. And I know that my mother meant well, but we used to go to this place where he was, and there were bars, and my mother meant well, I'm sure, in taking us there, but it was very frightening for me. And I'm very much like my father, and most of my life I've always been really frightened. If in the steps, they talk about step 2 about in the 12 steps about the insanity. and I could really relate to that. I thought, oh my God, am I going to be insane like my father? And so I was just so fearful. But anyways, that gives you an idea of my background. And through all this, I never really dealt with any emotions growing up because I just always used the food. And I mean always. I can remember the people when I was very young that I loved the most were people that gave me food. I remember my grandmother baked these cookies that I've never had, probably when I was 4 or 5, that I've never had anything like it before. I remember that. I remember someone who took care of us, and she would bring certain candies. And my focus was always on the food. But anyways, to move forward, that's where I was. And the depression in my life was really overwhelming. And I couldn't handle the depression. I didn't take any medications for depression when I was younger. I think that they were really heavy duty back then. I think, in the last 50 years ago, I'm 72, there are some that people take that don't have the implications that depressive medications have when I was younger. So anyway, I was always trying to keep myself above that sticking point with the depression. And I thought that everything would be fine if I lost the weight. And then I had this fantasy that if I got down to my right weight, that I guess this mentality of cash and prizes, all my life would be great if I could just be at the right weight. Well, I'd get to the right weight occasionally, and it was just like a hollow victory. It's like, is that all there is? And then I would go back to the eating because I thought that, there would be this euphoria or whatever once I got to my right weight, and that never happened. If anything, what happened was I would realize emotionally how I was so stymied in my emotional growth, and I think that going to the food throughout my life had really kept me from growing emotionally. There were people in my life growing up that I saw knew the Lord. One in particular was a woman who, her name was Fanny, who was our cook in our family. And this woman had peace about her that did surpass any understanding. And she read the Bible every morning and every night. And my parents would even go to her to talk to her, I think, for comfort and for wisdom. She was a wonderful person. And I thought at the time, what's with the Bible? And it had no appeal to me. I went to Catholic schools, and I didn't see any spiritualities in the nuns, and I was rebellious, and I just never saw it. And also, I had a mother who really was a phenomenal woman in many respects. She was diagnosed with a terminal disease when she was engaged, right when she became engaged to my father, and she was told that she was going to die, and that she was terminal, and that she would most likely be dead within a year or so, and especially if she ever became pregnant. And she converted to Catholicism before, as my father was Catholic, and before marrying my father. And back in the day, they didn't believe in birth control, and except for rhythm, apparently. And to make a long story short, she had 12 pregnancies, of which 6 children survived. And with every pregnancy, she was sicker, but she believed if whatever God's will, and she really, her life was just a real testimony to God and all. She died at like 52 or 53. So what happened to me in my 20s, I was trying to find the answer. And I'm an addict in so many ways. And I must say, every week I was buying books. I was certain that there would be some book, there would be something to lead me to how I could overcome this depression and this self-hatred and this eating behavior. And I was always seeking these answers in all of these commercial books. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I probably acquired I acquired thousands and thousands of books. And I never found the right book. I never found the answer. And then I was married to an alcoholic, and I determined that I was going to go to Al-Anon for his drinking. And to make a long story short, I found out that I had a drinking problem, but really my real addiction was the food. And I read the big book, and it really spoke to me. I really do. I love the big book. But the big book led me to the real big book, and that's the Bible. And I think it's when I met some other people in food recovery, and they directed me to Bible for Food. And at first, the thought of the Bible is like, I can't read the Bible. The Bible just never spoke to me. It was like reading Greek, literally. It was like a foreign language. And I had no interest in the Bible. And then all of a sudden, I think that I had gone through the food program I'm in, and I'd been in that program for some time, but I started to have relapses. And then one of my friends suggested that I go over to to Bible for Food, which I did. And all of a sudden, I really became engaged in the Bible and the Word, and it spoke to me. And I thought, my gosh, this is actually so beautiful. And I love to read the Bible, and I love the Word of the Lord, and I can apply it to my life. I can apply it to my depression, because my depression still was rampant through all this period. I mean, it could be disabling, my depression. And I was dumbfounded by the beauty of the Word. Well, that was the period that I was able to, for the first time, gain any really long-term abstinence, maybe about 5 years or so, 5 or 6 years. And then I went out again, and I eventually went back to the food program, and I was in the food program, but it wasn't enough. As I say, I was off the food, but it was that hollow or shallow victory, like there's got to be more here. And today, I realize that I was and can be a very selfish, self-centered person, and it can't just all be about me. I need to do things for others. I need a community. And that's really what I found in Bible for Food. And I must say that the first time I went through 90 days of encouragement, I knew that I needed and I wanted to do that, but I thought, golly, I don't know who could be a shepherd for me. And one morning, I got on the 5 o'clock a.m. meeting, and there was a woman who was in my food program who got on, and I've never heard her on that particular meeting again, ever, for years. And she got on and she said, I'm available to be a shepherd. And I thought, oh my God, you've really answered my request here. And this woman took me through the 90 days of encouragement for the Christian overeater. And for that, I'm ever grateful. It was one of the most outstanding experiences of my life. And subsequent to that, I've taken others through the 90 days of encouragement. I'm not doing that at this time. I think I probably should be doing that. As of late, I've become somewhat sidetracked by, I've referred to it before, the geopolitical situations going on in the world. And I'm reading and I'm focusing, Pat mentioned that sometimes, the news, and I'm prioritizing that to my daily reading and Bible immersions. And to my detriment, that's for sure, because I don't have the peace that I get when I'm in, really working the Bible immersion and Bible memorization. And right now, I think I have 5 years back of back-to-back abstinence, and I really do attribute it. I know it's a gift from God, and I know that, the 12-step rooms talk about the higher power, and that's really, and I love the 12 steps and the 12-step rooms. However, I have to have more food from the Bible, so to speak. And I was reading this morning, the daily reading, now I can't find it, but it was basically talking about, it was in Luke this morning, and I was reading chapter 6. It was talking about building my house on the rock. And I put that in my words, I need to build my abstinence on the rock. I need my abstinence to be firm. I need for it to be based in Christ. It can't be based on how I look or, I do it sometime, I don't do the other. It's got to be built on that rock. And that's what I believe the Bible for Food leads me to. And I'm just going to mention a few verses that really speak to me. I think I have 3 minutes and 16 seconds left. And I say it often, but it's so true for me. 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18. Be joyful always. Pray continually. Give thanks in all circumstance, for this is God's will in Christ Jesus. I still can get negative, but I spot it now. God has given me at least the sight to see it. And what I do when I start to get negative or drift, I say, okay, I know that the Lord wants me to be joyful always. And I pray, and I say, God, show me how you want me to see these circumstances, because I know you want me to be joyful always, but I'm not joyful right now. So show me how, and guide me. And that helps me. I cannot tell you how many times that has helped me get out of that negativity. And I need to give thanks in all circumstances. For God is so good, and He's given me so many, and so many things that I'm so blessed. And, being joyful always is not, it can't just be found only when things are all going my way. It's something I want to have despite my circumstances in life. And, I've met people like that they have that peace that surpasses all understanding, no matter what they're going through. And I'm not there yet, but I can see it in others. And I see these people that have this faith to a point that I'm striving to have. I ask the Lord to teach me, and I say, Spirit, help me to understand and apply what God's will for me is right now, right here and now. And there's just so many passages from the Bible I so appreciate. I appreciate Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen and help you. Deuteronomy 31:8, the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. So I just want to wrap up in saying that God is with me today, and I want to do God's will. And I was thinking yesterday that I really need to work the first commandment more vigorously. You shall have no other gods before me. Because when I get sidetracked into these diversions, be it, the world situation or whatever it might be, I've got to remember that I'm to have, here's my time. I'm to have no other God before God, no other situation, and I've done that to a great extent in my life, to my chagrin, I'll put it that way. But I'm so grateful. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And, Pat, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.